three rules apply to choosing the gun for you. The first is that gun has to be trustworthy. You have to have one you can trust. Also, you need one that you can shoot well. That's the second rule. And then thirdly, you need to have one that's comfortable in your hand. Now let's start with that third one, comfortable in your hand. It is real important that the gun you buy is comfortable, that when you first grab it, when you first pick it up, it feels okay. Gun shows are a great opportunity for you. Take your $5, go get in the door, tables and tables of firearms, and just start walking around and picking up the guns. Bring with you a notepad and paper and make a list of the guns that feel good in your hands. Because when you first pick it up, it's either going to feel really good, indifferent, and nothing that's really saying or screaming, I don't like it, or you don't like it, or you do like it. It'll just kind of be like, both of those are acceptable, and then you're going to pick up some and you're going to go, I don't like it. Okay, put that one down, don't include it on your list. Whenever you start to shoot the gun, you're going to add energy to it. When that happens, whatever feels bad, it's too thick, too thin, too sharp, too pokey, too something, is going to get exaggerated when you put that energy behind it. So choose a gun that's comfortable in your hand. Next, one you can shoot well. Now, I know I sound like a jerk, and I feel like a jerk for making that observation that you need to buy a gun that you can shoot well, but let's understand that that is heavily related to the trigger. So don't buy a gun that you have not dry fired. Make sure that you have the opportunity to get that gun in your hand without any of the safety locks in it, the zip ties and so forth, and actually press the trigger. You will find that guns vary in their trigger presses. The amount of distance that the trigger moves will vary, and the amount of pressure that you have to apply to make the gun go click will differ. So make sure that you dry fire that gun and that the trigger press is one that you can handle and accept. If you're pressing on that trigger and you think to yourself, oh goodness, I don't know if I can press this trigger 50 times because it's a 12-pound trigger press or more, then that's not the gun for you. If you find that the trigger is really catch, give, gritty, and metal on metal is not a smooth surface contact, don't buy that gun. If you find that the movement or the distance is just too long from and check the reset, that the distance you have to move that finger to bang, and then the movement you have to make to the reset is too long for you, that's not the gun for you. Then lastly, you need one you can trust. In today's market, that means you're going to spend probably about $300. Make sure that you've invested enough in the gun that it will go bang when you need it to go bang. Whether it be in competition, saving your life, or even just practicing on the range, it's always a bad thing when the gun goes click and not bang. So make sure you spend enough money. Above $300. Still a warning area, but probably acceptable. Most of the time, though, you're going to find plenty of acceptable guns in that $450 to $750 price range, and they'll be dependable. And you'll find that they are well made, and they're going to last a long time for you. So remember, you need a gun you can trust. You need one that you can shoot well, one that's comfortable in your hand. Next, also understand that this firearm is a tool. Now, what is really the difference between a Dremel, a file, and a saw when they all remove material? Well, the job that they're intended for. When you need a Dremel, the saw doesn't work. When you need a saw, the Dremel doesn't work. So remember that you're buying a tool, and you've got several major categories for what guns are used for, why you would buy them. Home defense is one of the more common ones. When I think of a home defense gun, I think of a full-size model firearm, something along the lines of a Glock 17. It is large enough to feel comfortable, fill the hand, plenty of capacity. Get one with a rail so you can attach a light and laser combination to it. Also night sights. I believe heavily in both of those as attachments to the main firearm, so consider the extra monies to get the light and laser combination and the night sights on your gun so that you can use it when the light is dim. Next, you've got the major category of concealed carry. So, if you're getting concealed carry, it makes sense to shrink the gun a little bit. I'm not talking about going from full size to dinky little Derringer. There's several models that are sold exclusively or directly towards the idea of a concealed carry handgun like the Glock 19. So look to one of those. A gun that's a little smaller, a little thinner, a little shorter in its top to bottom measurements, but not so small that you don't feel like you can fight with it. Because when that stress hits, when that life or death situation occurs, you are not going to want to be not going to want to be using a gun that's so small that you cannot manipulate and fight effectively with it. How about a competition or a target shooting gun? These are specialized tools. You're going to have guns that are longer in their sight radiuses, upwards of 6 inches in barrel length. They'll have specialized triggers that will be shorter and lighter, and the reset is much quicker. Not ideal for necessarily a fighting handgun unless you have extensive amount of experience and knowledge with the gun, or, and I'm not afraid to say this, How about some of my older students that come into the equation with arthritis in their hands and not as much hand strength, and so trying to press a 7.5 pound or 12 pound trigger or something in between is not right for them. So accepting a 3.5 pound trigger for that type of person makes a little bit of sense. All right. Target shooting competition guns might still be acceptable for using for home defense, but typically are not going to work very well for the concealed carry. They're usually much bigger, much thicker. The additions to the gun make them untenable as a concealed carry firearm. Hunting. When I say hunting firearms, I'm usually thinking of things along the lines of the 357 Magnums, the 44 Magnums, with the 12-inch barrels, oftentimes with scopes on the top, the big game guns. And that you have guns that are made specifically for hunting, handgun hunting. They're never really going to be appropriate for concealed carry. You'll never compete effectively with one of those firearms. Okay, 357 Magnum or 44 Magnum would be wonderful as a home defense gun because, you know, as the myth goes, if you miss with the shot, the blast is going to, you know, kill them anyways. But no, it won't. Learn how to shoot. Or you're looking for some type of combination gun. I want this for home defense, but I also want to shoot a little competition with it. Also, I wouldn't mind being able to conceal carry it. I'm kind of back to that Glock 17 again. You have a division in most competitive pistol competitions that are set up for production guns off the shelf. Glock 17 works very well for that. You can certainly use it for home defense, and it's not too big to actually conceal or carry about with you on your person when you're moving out in public. So remembering, the gun is a tool, so you have to make a decision as what am I going to use the gun for and what's the right tool, and that I have 3 criteria for my firearm. Those criteria are that it needs to be one I can trust, one that I can shoot well, and one that's comfortable in your hand. After that, I don't care what you buy. And no, neither should you care about somebody else's opinion as to your choice of the gun. Everybody's got their preferences, everybody's got their choices, and people make different compromises. Theirs is theirs, and yours is yours, and you should tell those people to just keep their opinion to themselves. As a part of this discussion on choosing the right firearm for you, I'm going to go ahead and list off a number of firearms that sit well with me, that would make my list that I either own, have owned, or would consider owning. Glocks. Glock 17, Glock 19s. Look for the full size, the compacts, but not the subcompacts. Full size, Glock 17 size. Compacts, Glock 19, but the subcompact, the Glock 26s, I'm not real big on. To me, they've just gotten a little too small. May not be too small for everybody. I just find this too small for me. The Car CW9 and a lot of the Car models. They make a really good gun, very dependable, great trigger. I trust the Car so much that actually my wife has a Car CW9 for her self-defense. There are some FN models like the FNS at the bullet hole range where I instruct at, and I would consider owning one of those. They're perfectly fine. So look to the FNs. One of my students brought a Walther PPQ to class, and I was really impressed with that firearm, with the trigger, with its performance. Didn't see any malfunctions out of it, and the accuracy was fully acceptable. You know, as you might actually expect out of a Walther. I'm okay with the Ruger SR9s. I think the trigger's a bit rough, but for a little bit towards the bottom end of that $400 price range, it's an acceptable firearm. The Smith & Wesson M&P models are okay. Not real great, not real big on their triggers. You know, almost worse actually, I think, than the Ruger SR9s. It's not the press that's really the problem, though it is a bit long. It's the reset is so long, so mushy, you can barely tell it. I think that it's going to be problematic for shooters. I really like any model in 1911. Just make sure you spend enough money to get one of quality, and that's going to work for you. 6 Hour is a quality manufacturer of many models. CZ makes really great guns. There's many in the CZ series that you could consider buying, but the CZ75, great gun. Nothing wrong with there. They make a number of more performance-oriented guns that are going to cost you a little bit more, but they're worth the money as well. Not necessarily. I'm okay with the Beretta 92. The first shot, that double action, is just nasty. I'm not big on decockers. It comes lower on my list, but as far as spending the money to get one, I wouldn't fault you. I wouldn't tell you you've made a gross mistake or something like that. What should actually have been higher on this list is the Springfield XDs, XDMs, the XDM 5.25 models. A little more expensive, but I like everything about the XDs. Trigger's better than that on the M&P. I like the grip safety as a function. I like knowing that the striker is in its cocked position. I like having a loaded chamber indicator. All the things about the Springfield XD set high with me. I am partial to 1911s and have owned a Kimber for a long time and shot it extensively. Glock sits high on the list, so does the Springfield, the CZ, and the Cars. I would not recommend two certain models. I want to caution you against them. From reputation, from what I've seen. Avoid the Smith & Wesson model that is known as the Sigma, rebranded as the SW9VE or the SW40VE. These Sigma series firearms are just atrocious on their trigger. I even have trouble making them shoot somewhat dependably, and so I would avoid that. And of course, the high point. You'd be much better off saving up your money a little bit longer and getting a better firearm than either that Smith & Wesson Sigma series or the high points.